Hello and welcome to our latest episode of Film Ireland Presents. I'll be chatting with writer and director Maurice O'Carroll as his feature film Swing Bout hits cinemas this weekend. Set backstage at a major event, a young boxer is plunged into the difficult journey from the dressing room to her ring walk in a night fueled with deceit, betrayal and life-altering decisions. So very exciting stuff, and have a listen to the trailer here.
That right cross again, raises her chin with that one. She's in trouble. And another big right. Another. One shot away from India.
Life is suffering. Life is pain. And whether she comes fast or slow, death is coming for all of us. The question is, how did you die? Because if you lived on your knees, you're going to die on your knees, motherfucker.
Have you ever been knocked out?
No.
Have you ever been stopped?
No.
When you go down, you better go down hard.
I'm gonna be world champ.
Everyone's going to be world champ until the real world champ starts punching their face in. Look, this is a great opportunity.
Yeah? He wants me to fucking lose, Emma. He wants me to throw the fight.
Welcome to the fight game.
A storm carries the fury of the gods. It brings destruction and death. But a storm rewards the strong, the brave, and the bold. And I can tell you, with great certainty, a storm is coming. And I ask you again, how did you die?
Thank you so much for chatting with us.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me, Gemma.
Such a fun, almost Shakespearean film. Like, there's so much pending doom, characters, there's so much movement, there's so much tension. Talk to me about writing it. Where did the idea come from? I did read it was from the concept of Swing Bout was when you were editing a documentary on it, but how did you then develop that into the story?
Sure. I was editing a documentary for Terry McMahon, the prize fighter, which was it was centered around Spike O'Sullivan, who's a Cork boxer. And it was his quest to become a world champion over a 3-fight deal. So during the course, I was looking through the footage, and this ended up on the cutting room floor, but he mentioned a swing bout. And as a huge boxing fan, I was like, what is a swing bout again? I couldn't place what it was. So Spike explained that, you have a card of fights at an event, and let's say the first fight is scheduled to go 6 rounds and it only goes 1. The second fight is scheduled to go 8 rounds, it only goes 2 rounds. There's this gap opening up in the schedule, and these swing bout fighters are brought in to plug that gap. So they're brought in at the very start of the night, and they get gloved up, get togged out, and they're ready to go from the start until the very end. And they might not even go and fight. And Spike was explaining, he said, I actually couldn't even go for a piss because I had my boxing gloves on, and I had to get my coach to come in with me. And I was like, oh my God, there's great comedy in that. And they're in this trapped environment, and that's a fertile ground for comedy. So I initially visualized Swing Bout as a comedy, and I tried to write it at the time, but it just wasn't working. I couldn't figure out the ending. And so I just put it to bed for a while and just let it percolate. And then when COVID came along, we were all trapped at home, we were all locked down. And I said, this is the opportunity to write my lockdown movie. Again, it's that claustrophobic feel where we feel, we're trapped in the underbelly of a stadium. And so I started writing it then. I was actually doing a course at the time with Screen Ireland, the advanced producers course. And my producer, she was on it with me, Sinead O'Riordan. So I just said to her, look, Sinead, I've got this idea. I've had it swimming around in my head for a while. I'm actually writing it now, and I see a great role for you in it. But I'll chat to you whenever we can actually meet each other in person again. Because, again, we were all trapped down and whatnot. So that's where the genesis of the idea came from.
And it's so like rich in terms of the layers of characters, the arcs, the intensity, the walking and talking, the like the twists and turns with the various characters. So you like when this started off, did you see this as, you know, your protagonist, your antagonist, your like when you were writing this, like what was sort of your framework? Because it doesn't even sit into that traditional like sort of hero's journey sports film at all, which I think is really interesting. It feels, you know, more in the veins of a like a play, like a tragedy, or you know, like something we're more used to seeing with the kind of array of characters and that they're interwoven like lives. I'm just curious, like when you were sort of going through it, where did you get inspiration from?
So I suppose at its core, Swing Bout, it's a story about protecting the truth at all costs. And I wanted to explore that through the lens like a female boxer in a male dominated world, trapped backstage at a boxing event. And what I wanted to do, like, I had to figure out the ending for the film. I don't like to write unless I know what the ending is. And I couldn't come up with the ending because when people go to watch a boxing movie, they want to see a boxing match. And I knew, I was like, right, I'm not going to have the budget to film a boxing film because very, very early on, again, it was during COVID, I said, I'm making this film no matter what. We were told cinema is dead. We're never going to sit inside the cinema again with each other. And I just didn't believe that. I was like, we are like, it's so important that we do go explore the human condition in a dark theater together. And I wanted to make this film regardless. And so I set my stall out as like, I'm going to make this film. I just needed to come up with the ending. And so once I came up with the ending, I was like, how can I turn boxing movie tropes on their head? And so once I came up with that, then the rest of it fell into place for me.
Brilliant. And in terms of like drafts of a script, then so you were on the producing course, so that kind of gives you a good handle on, you know, like what funding is available, where to go, like what different avenues to go down. Like so you knew, okay, I want this to be like doable and doable soon. I think the budget I read was 125,000,
It
which
was more
sounds,
than that.
was it?
It
Oh,
was
okay.
more than that.
That was the last. Okay, good. Looks
Yeah,
more than that. Yeah, but
yeah. It was private equity. It was made like Sinead O'Riordan, the producer, just did phenomenal work. I mean, she came on early, you know, once I told her there was a role and stuff, she said, look, I'd like to actually produce this. And um the 125 figure, that's not realistic because like cast and crew didn't get paid. You know, they all came on because we'd worked with them on previous projects and we pitched this as, look, let's get out and just do a bit of work. Let's make something important. Like I say, I was on the Screen Ireland course. People on that were even saying to me, you should go down the funding route with this. Like it ticks a lot of boxes with like, it's a female driven cast. It's very topical at the moment, the boxing stuff, but I just wanted to get it done now. Like I wanted it done yesterday. I needed this to make this film just for myself as well, because it was during COVID and I wanted to work. I wanted to be part of the process again, as opposed to just being trapped at home. So yeah, that's why we filmed it that way. Like as I always pitched it as like a punk style filmmaking.
and in terms of like your drafts and things like that, how many reworks do you do? Like, what's your process as a writer? You sit down, bash it out? Do you beat it out? Do you storyboard? How do you kind of get the ideas onto the page and then get it polished?
Yeah, like it's hard to say where ideas come from, and you know you get lots of ideas, but you can never really hang a full story off of it. And I suppose once I've the ending, I'm like, okay, now I can work towards something. Like I can make a roadmap towards that ending. In terms of drafts, it's a good question because I don't actually log what I'm writing. I don't say, oh, that's draft one, finish it, now I go back again. I could be writing and I just completely abandon it and go back to the very start and just go all over again. And the good parts will always stick. And so I would imagine I would have wrote probably six drafts of Swing Bout maybe. And having said that, like before we ever even got to set, I knew that the whole thing was changing because it was very much Coen-esque when I first wrote it, and it was satirical, and I started stripping all that away when I was planning it out in my head how we'd shoot it. So I was like, we're very much in crime thriller territory with the film. So when I got to set, even after 2-3 days on set, I changed the whole ending of the film. So I stripped out maybe 15 pages of the script, and I was writing on the fly at night, and we had a fantastic cast and crew, and they indulged me with that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, you're not going over rushes. You're completely reworking everything.
No.
That's intense. Yeah. Fabulous. I suppose it's easier to envisage things when you can see the character dressed in the role of the character in the physical space as well. Like there's something to be said for like the inspiring nature of that. Like did that surprise many of the people as they rocked up thinking, oh yeah, no, this is going to be my comedy moment? And then they're
no, I told the cast in the run up to the film, I said, look, I'm stripping away a lot of the comedy, a lot of the satire. We're heading towards crime thriller territory. So it wasn't a huge surprise for them. It was a big surprise to a couple of people, different endings, because I would have to strip out scenes and, that they would have prepared for. But my gut told me that was where we needed to go with the film. So what's that saying? There's the script you write, the one you film, the one you edit. Well, that's so true with this. And because I edit as well, I had a good grasp of where we needed to go. So and again, what I would say to all our cast and crew, I said, we're going to be very bold with this project. We're going to make lots of bold decisions, and we're going to nail our colors to mast on them decisions, and we're going to go with it.
Brilliant. Okay, so then finding the cast, like you've great young talent. You've kind of like established people that I recognize from Game of Thrones and like their own works. And then you've a kind of, and there's a lot of work being done, like in terms of it's that tinderbox. There's a lot like pinning on those emotional hooks. How do you cast something like this?
It was very hard to cast because Sinead and I, we had to obviously approach people and say, look, there's a limited budget on this. There's no pay. Likelihood is we're not going to make any money out of this. It's an indie film. Unless we're one of that 1 in a million success stories, let's be realistic, you mightn't get paid. What we did promise them was that we would go on a journey with the film, that we would get it into DIFF, straight away. We said, right, we want Dublin Film Festival, and that is our goal. We want to premiere there. So we promised that to them. And we promised them that they could trust us. And like that, so we had 2 words, bold and trust. And we gave all our cast and crew lots of room to express themselves. So like they weren't micromanaged on set. So it was a passion project for us, but we said, look, this project belongs to you also. Yeah. So in terms of casting, then like we obviously couldn't get a casting director on board, and we knew we wanted emerging talent on both sides of the camera. So we had to like put it out on social media and say, look, pitch the film. We're looking for boxers. Send in your self-tapes, and we just got a deluge of self-tapes in, and that was difficult, not just to go through them and see who's right, but we had to match up boxers in terms of their physicality, so their weight categories and their age and That was difficult in itself. And then they had to have like a boxer's physique. Um, so it was very difficult casting it. But then, and we knew then we had to find a stunning lead, because the lead character in the film, a lot of it is what's going on inside her head. She actually has the most least amount of lines in the film. But she carries that film forward. So it's very important that we found someone like with a lot of inner life going on in them. And Ciara Berkeley, when she sent in her self-tape to us, the second I seen it, she wasn't what I was looking for. She was the total opposite. But I was like, all right, that's our lead actress.
She's brilliant, and she plays opposite Chrissy very, very well. Like the pair of them together, like they're very opposite in terms of that. And it's funny with Chrissy, like there's I have a short film, she was in it, and she's such a warmth and like that, like there's, I don't want to give too much away, but there's like a bravado, and I was like, oh Jesus, that's a very different. And then you go, oh yeah, you can see that kind of like stripping away of the vulnerability. Like it's a beautiful sort of rapport between the two of them, because I think that's the opposing forces of the the system, and it's the system that is deeply flawed, and that's what works so well. um but yeah, but she plays such a kind of, I mean, Ciara is just, there's such a vulnerability to her and authenticity, like, and she really does, when she says nothing, say a whole lot. She's amazing.
Yeah, we were so lucky to get her. I always say she was a gift from the gods to us. And she said to me earlier on, she said, like, am I believable as a boxer? And her very first day that she arrived on set, we had been filming like a couple of days, and she didn't come to maybe like the second or third day. And I could see our cast looking at her when she walked out. Now, she'd all the boxing gear on, but she didn't look like a boxer. Like, she's a pretty girl and she's shy, and she walked up the corridor, and our crew weren't enthused with confidence in seeing her. But the second that we called action, she just turned into a monster walking up the corridors. And then, like, that fed into our crew then, and the rest of the cast. They were like, oh my God, we're in such good hands here. And as our DOP, Mark, said to me, he said, we could actually film her all day long. Like, the camera just loves her. And there's that, like, as you said, there's that vulnerability behind, you know, throughout the film, no matter what's going on around, like, you can see this inner life, this, you know, because it's about her reawakening. It's, you know, she has to make this, she's got this huge dilemma ahead of her, and she has to reawaken and, you know, look deep inside herself to say, right, what's the right choice to make here? And you can see all that going on, you know, behind those big eyes of hers. And like you say, she was fantastic then with Chrissy. Like, Chrissy came to us again through self tapes, and if I didn't have Ciara in the lead role, I was like, well, if anything happens with Ciara that she can't fill those shoes, I've got Chrissy. She could do it as well. And she was phenomenal for us. And she's gotten a lot of plaudits out of the film as well.
She's absolutely brilliant, and she's
She is.
so lovely to work with as well. I'm just like,
oh my God,
yeah.
She's a sweetheart, but all of the girls are, all them, you know, and the one fear of mine was, right, I'm putting all these women into a dressing room together. I hope they get on. They were sweethearts, all of them. And again, then when you turn on the camera, they turn into these monsters, and that was phenomenal.
And tell me about, okay, so you create the space for those performances to happen. And again, it's that tinderbox. Talk to me about, like, even getting this everything like in step, because okay, filming for that, for a low budget, getting everything kind of across the line, getting all your ducks in a row, like that, there's a lot that has to happen before the performances can happen. Can you talk to me about, like, getting the location? Was it always going to be there? Can you, like, getting the cast and crew, like, was it tough to nail the dates down, even especially post COVID, because that was at a time when we were like at peak production?
Yeah. Originally we were going to, like, as I had said to Sinead, I said, look, we're going to make this film regardless, and we're going to film it in my shed if we have to. She said, we're not filming it in your shed. So we were going to build a set, and that just came in at just colossal money, and we just couldn't afford it. So our production designer, Darren O'Mahony, he mentioned to Sinead, he says, look, for corridors, we should actually look at Páirc Uí Chaoimh. They have some good corridors there, and let's go down and have a chat with them. And Sinead was like, they won't even give us the corridors to film, and they're too busy. And she went down and she spoke to them at Páirc Uí Chaoimh, and she was very honest with them, laid all our cards on the table. You know, we're a low budget film. And they were so helpful. They said, look, what kind of budget have you got? And we said, look, this is what we could afford. And so it was incredible then, because we had a real stadium and an iconic stadium in Cork. And so it had like the media rooms, all the dressing rooms, all our corridors, everything we needed.
And there's good parking as well. Like it's very
There's great parking,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I Cork is fantastic as well, I must say. But
It is, yeah. I'm from
it
Cork.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's lovely. It's such a great stadium, and they couldn't have been more helpful to us. So that was great. So once we nailed the stadium then, and Sinead was all excited, but then I was very scared because I was looking at the stadium going, we're going to need enormous lights to light this place. And you get the look that I wanted, because it was all white and grey walls everywhere. So then our DOP, Mark, he'd seen I'd put up that I was going shooting something, and I've worked with Mark on a couple of things in the past, and he just sent me a private message. He says, look, I'm in. Whatever you want, I'm in. So that was my DOP on board. And once Mark was on board, we got our gaffer, Noel McElligott, Red Room Lighting. He was absolutely fantastic. And so once I had them, I was like, now we can light this place. So that's how, so it's, once we got the stadium going, once we got that locked in, then we were running.
And it's really powerful. Then, okay, so how long were you shooting for? What was the shoot?
Yeah. So obviously the stadium's very busy, and it's got its GAA calendar, it's got its events calendars and stuff. So we had 21 days exactly. So we just put in massive amount of work into pre-production, and just to make sure that we could nail them 21 days. And because we couldn't go back for pickups or anything. Once them 21 days were up, that was it. We were out of there. So we had to nail everything.
Arcs that have to close. There was a lot of like moving plates throughout. Yeah, if you can't go back for pickups, that's tough.
That's it. And like I say, we had committed to making bold choices as well. So like myself and Mark, as the DOP, established very early that we were going to do lots of long takes. And, you know, it might look great on the day, and you get back to the edit suite and you go, we should have went in for coverage. So you couldn't go back for them pickups. So again, we just had to nail our colors to the mast and say, right, this is where we're going to go. Be very brave with it, be very bold, and just commit to it. And
so you don't make things hard, like easy for yourself as an editor. I'm sure you're like, cursing internally, cursing directors all the time to go, you did not get the coverage. You did not get the coverage. But you're like, no, we knew we got it. That you can't cut in or change the tempo or anything like that. Like you are like not stuck, but you're like, you've made the decision. That's your.
Oh, you've made a decision. That's it. Yeah.
And what was that process like? So you shot it. You had like, when do you go? Did you work with a different editor? Did you edit yourself? Was it tough to see certain things? If you've worn all the hats so far as well, in terms of like, doing, I presume, a chunk on something this size, you're doing a chunk of the producing. There's directing and writing. Was it tough to let darlings go when you're kind of looking at them from so many different viewpoints?
Possibly. But I wanted to edit the film. I was like, this is probably my last chance where I will get the chance to write, direct, and edit. Sinead and I have always committed to moving on to, challenge ourselves more with each project that comes along, take bigger steps. And I suppose the bigger the steps you take, like to take one discipline off me anyway. Like I would like to continue writing and directing, but I definitely wanted to edit this film as well. So I think like it benefits me as well because I'm an editor when I'm on set and I'm very definite in my decisions. That feeds into the crew, and they feel like they are in safe hands when I know exactly what I want. And because towards the end of the film, I suppose all the agendas, all the multiple characters come together, and there's about 15, 16 characters in one small space for almost 20 minutes. So to film that and keep it consistent and keep the continuity going, the editing helped me with that, like for our eye lines, for our composition, for continuity. So it possibly, like it is hard to kill your darlings. You bring it back, you go, oh, I'd like to hold that shot even a bit more. And yeah, like another editor would just whip it out. And so it's hard to tell. I suppose it's down to the audience to see, did I do a good job editing it?
Of course. And obviously the audience at Diff really liked it. You got a big long standing ovation, which was very exciting. How was it then kind of getting it to that point, like going from your edit to, like finishing all post and even the sound mix? Like, I mean, something so pacey, a lot hangs on those elements as well.
For sure, yeah. I like that. We got a great sound mixer. It's actually his first film. Antimo in Dublin. I sat with him for about a month, I'd say, and we went through the film and we established what style of sound we wanted. And because like in the film, there's a character who's played through headphones, played by John Connors. Just between the two of us saying, okay, what does his voice sound like? And let's try different filters on it because we wanted it to stand out that much. Sorry, I forgot your original question.
Oh yeah, like to get it to that point, like what was it like after the edit? Like what were the different techniques that you used? Is there anything that shifted?
Yeah, so like for me, one of the rewarding things is post-production. Like I love the writing phase, and when I'm in it, I'm 100% in the writing. It's the same when I get to direct, and then I love the post as well. Whereas I know a lot of people don't; they find it a bit of a grind. I actually love it, and like that working with the sound mixer, like the musician that came on who did the score for us, Brian Pepper, like working with him is phenomenal. So yeah, I enjoy that whole process.
But did you like, I know it elevates so intensely. Was there ever, and it changes so much, and it was such a kind of fast process. Was there any kind of points where like things became very hectic or you were like, oh God, like there's so many spinning plates in film. They always drop, like things always happen. You lose locations, like someone gets booked for a different gig and that in the time. Like, were there any kind of like low points that you were like, oh my God, we'll never get there? And then you got to Diff and you have that big celebration. What were your downfall? Again, because it's filmmakers listening, so we've all had them.
Yeah, I mean, you always have like something is going to go wrong. Like some of the gear that we had, like myself and Mark, the DOP, like we had a plan to shoot the first 10, 15 minutes of the film on a stabilizer. And so we had that equipment booked in. And we were like, right, when we establish that there's a fight fix going on, we go handheld for the rest of the film. But of course, our stabilizer fell through on the first day, and you just have to make a change. And I feel it benefits the film anyway that we went 100% handheld through the film. There's other stuff like our lead actress, like she had a family tragedy during lost her grandfather on the last few days, and we had to change the whole schedule. And she was phenomenal. Like she plowed on, did her bit, and we got her back after her family. Every film has stuff like that where you just have to overcome it. Like you will be faced with these obstacles, and we were faced with them. And like that's a big thing. That you have to change your whole schedule and whatnot. But we got through it, and we were committed to getting to Diff. And I suppose once we got to post, then it was I found it easy enough. I got everything I wanted on set. The edit flowed out. Like when I said, right, we're actually finished editing, like our post team couldn't believe it. It's all right, we're ready for sound mix already. And so we just wanted to get it ready for Dublin.
And in terms of, okay, getting a feature like this across the line, like there was so much that, like, so it was COVID that spurred your decision to shoot your first, like to do it yourself. Had you been sort of trying for like feature film funding for a while, or was it like, no, I'm just not going to wait around for it? What was the sort of like the final straw? Like COVID was the final straw, but what were the few straws before that?
Yeah, I've never actually applied for funding
Okay.
ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously started off doing short films, and I never seen the reason to apply for funding for them. I was like, right, let me just go out and do it myself and learn, because it was just a learning process for me. And then when I did my first feature film, I call it my student film. Again, I just said, okay, let me just grab the bull by the horns here. I'm just going to make it. I just want to get my first feature shot. I had $5,000 to make it. So I did it. I did that. Then I had planned, I said, right, now I need to grow up a little bit and get the funding on, make bigger films. And I was ready to go with something in 2020. I was aiming for that. And then, of course, COVID hit, and I suppose my hand was forced again, just that one last time to make a punk film. And I've said to everyone, I said, look, this is my last time doing this. In future now, I'm going to go down the funding route.
I suppose that's it. You do have to
Yeah.
have that proven thing. That's yeah, your last punk film, and it's all going to be mainstream from here, is it?
Hopefully, if they give me funding.
And in terms of now writing your next, say, series of stories, like was there anything that, I mean, writing a script on the fly after getting it across the line, like, or getting it to that point where all the kind of everything is ready to shoot, like, did that teach you a lot about the writing process? Like, was there anything that shifted as you were filming such a complex story? Like it is a baptism by fire in terms of learning, but like, do you feel as a writer that you have grown as a result of this?
Oh, yeah, I do after every project. Like you feel like you've made a quantum leap, and in some ways it becomes harder because you realize, you see the little mistakes that you've made. So because it does become a little harder to write something, but again, like I suppose I'm inspired with confidence. Then you get something over the line like that, and after diff, like a few doors open for me where people brought me in for meetings, and that's fantastic. Then because I was gonna make another film, but I've decided after the meetings to concentrate on developing a TV series. So, and like that came from Swing Bout.
Brilliant. And are you allowed to talk about it now? Like, I know you don't want to give the goal away, but I'd be interested in terms of like themes that you'd be interested to explore in a longer form, because like film, like it's a very different medium.
Yeah, like no one's, just don't get me wrong, no one said, oh, we're going to give you money to make a TV series. I walked out of the meeting saying, now people have opened their door to me and they're going to take me seriously. It's time to write that TV series that was in my head. In terms of themes, I always gravitate to themes like Swing Bout is protect the truth at all costs. And I like that exploration of the nature of truth. And so it's the same now with the TV series. It's going to be set in my hometown. The town is ravaged by crime and drugs, and their only bit of hope seems to lie in this drug addicted priest who's entangled with the underworld. And he seems to be performing miracles, like literal miracles. And I won't go into much more about it. I have the pilot done, and I'm just fleshing out the rest of the series now.
Fabulous. It sounds very, very interesting. And again, like you've proven you can do it across the line. Would you, is there any sort of lesson that you would have taken away actually that like the main thing that like because it is a baptism by fire in terms of what you've achieved, what you managed to get across the line. Well, what would be the kind of main takeaway that you maybe learned in this process that you'd go back and tell yourself if you were starting out?
I often say to people starting out that they should never listen to people that say, no, you can't do this. If you feel you can do it, chase it. And you'll never have any regrets if you try it. And I've always done that. I've said, okay, look, if I have to make it myself, and I have done it, I've gone out and made, like during COVID, I shot a whole documentary by myself, like the whole lot, like did the post, did the shooting, did the cinematography, wrote it. You can do it. You know, you can wear many hats as well, and you will have to if you're starting out, especially in like the punk side of filmmaking. You're gonna have to spin many plates. And like I always say to people, just go for it.
Brilliant.
And you have to put in the work as well. Like you have to work harder than the next person.
And do you think even in terms of like your technical ability, is there anything that can you see a visual style forming that you're drawn to, or is it something that you would explore on each story slightly differently?
Yeah, I think it's each story, to be honest with you. Like this was my first film shooting entirely handheld. I'm not a huge fan of handheld footage. I like stuff to be stabilized. I don't like to draw attention to the camera, but it suited this story. So myself and Mark had the conversation and we were like, this feels right for this film. Let's go handheld. So I wouldn't like to box myself into a certain style. I'm like, okay, if it serves story, let's do it. But, you know, even with Swing Bout, like we wanted it to look great. It was obviously low budget, but we wanted it to look fantastic. But we couldn't just shoot a fantastic looking shot just for the sake of that. It had to serve the story. And so, yeah, that's where I go with that.
Great. And in terms of like getting performances from actors, I do think that's a very like different sort of skill set as well. Is it like is your answer maybe just cast brilliant actors, or like what are the, like do you workshop it with them? Do you have big discussions with characters too, or with like about characters? Like what's your process there as well?
I always like to meet the actor first. Um, to see their self-tape and see that they can act, obviously, but I love to meet them and just see what they're like as a person. And I like to see a bit of that person in their performance as well. So yeah, like I do workshop out in terms of just the meetings and, like fleshing out the character with them. I like to give them a lot of room to explore the character and say, look, this is what I feel he or she would do. And as I always say to them, we're going to have it like there's a lot of trust involved. You're in a very safe place on the set. And if they want to take 10 takes, I'll give them 10 takes. If I think we've enough after one take, I'll say, look, we've enough after one. You've nailed it. But if they want another one, I give them that. So I just want them to feel safe on set. And like, I'm very open to changes of dialogue. I'm open to changes of motivations, choices, because it is a collaboration. It's not like what's going on inside my head is great, but that's where it should stay. Where you're part of a team, and so I'm bringing them on. I'm trusting them to flesh out this character, and that's where you're going to get your best work from cast and crew.
And part of the brilliance of this is sort of what was achieved with so little, the collaboration. And I do think it's everyone working at the top of their game then creates something just so much bigger than like an individual. But if someone had come in and said, oh, completion funding, blank check, would you have shot the boxing? Would it have changed anything or much?
No, I would have went with that film, yeah. And we were advised to go for completion funding very early before we even shot, and like it does tick a lot of boxes. It's we just weren't. I wasn't interested. I was like, no, I want to make this film. I want to do it this way. Again, nail my colors to the mast with it. So we're going to make a punk film, and that's it. We're going for it. And so, yeah, the ending was it was always going to be that.
And
Like we've seen 101 boxing movies, we've seen 1,000 boxing movies, but you don't see a boxing movie where you don't have a boxing match at the end of it. So I think that was a very unique take on it as well.
But I kind of loved the rich tapestry of characters and how deeply they were interwoven, and what it said more about like systemic issues and corruption and like literally in an underbelly. Like, I mean, that was all kind of those interesting elements of it, because yeah, it's about the tapestry of the world as much. Would you so you have your next series lined up, you have your next kind of ideas for that. Do you have like an array of worlds that you'd like to explore? Is it definitely in the vein of those themes where you were saying that you like exploring the nature of truth? Is there any other like could you be tempted over to the world of sci-fi, or if there was somebody with a job interesting enough?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I love working in film. If someone brought me a project to edit, I'd be like, oh my God, yeah. Once I connect with it, once I could connect with the story and the characters in it and the themes behind it, like I'm on board. I'm again, like I like to explore stuff, my own work that explores the nature of truth. And that's what the TV series is. Like that's what I'm really pushing for. I'm very excited about this next project.
Brilliant. Well, we wish you the best of luck with it, and you'll have to come back and chat with us about that as well. That's amazing. And congratulations on your release. I think it's really inspiring to see a project that's so fueled by passion get out there and get seen by people, and from Cork as well. Like that's always great to see.
You had to get the Cork bit in, Gemma, didn't
Of
you?
course I did. Yeah. I'll get murdered by my family if not.
Gemma, thanks a million for having me.
Thanks so much. And thank you so much for listening. So make sure to check out filmireland.ie, where you can read our latest articles and reviews, and subscribe to the Film Ireland newsletter too.